There is a ship that the United States Navy has been watching for years with a combination of skepticism, technical curiosity, and something that has recently shifted into a more serious form of attention. It is not the newest vessel in any fleet. It has not had an easy history. It has spent more time in dry dock than at sea, suffered fires, mechanical failures, and the kind of operational difficulties that would have ended the career of almost any other warship in any other navy. And yet it has not been scrapped. It has not been quietly retired. It has been rebuilt, modernized, and it is now returning to operational service in a configuration that is meaningfully different from what it was before. Russia's Admiral Kuznetsov aircraft carrier is back, and the questions it is now raising inside the United States Navy are more serious than anything its previous operational history ever generated. To understand why this matters, you have to start with what an aircraft carrier actually represents in the context of naval power. A carrier is not just a ship. It is a mobile airfield, a floating air base that can be positioned anywhere on the ocean and project air power across hundreds of kilometers in any direction. It represents the ability to bring combat aviation to any point on the globe without depending on access to land bases, without negotiating with host nations, and without the vulnerabilities that come with fixed infrastructure. This is why the United States has invested so heavily in carrier aviation for decades. Not because carriers are invulnerable, they are not, but because nothing else combines mobility, striking power, and operational flexibility in the same way. For most of the post-Cold War period, carrier aviation has been essentially an American domain. The United States operates 11 nuclear-powered supercarriers, each capable of carrying roughly 70 to 80 aircraft and operating them continuously for extended deployments. No other nation comes close to that number or that capability. China has been developing its carrier program rapidly and now operates multiple carriers with more under construction. But Russia's carrier program has been a different story entirely. The Kuznetsov has been the only carrier Russia operates, and for much of the past decade it has been either undergoing repairs or tied to the pier in a state that made its operational relevance questionable. Critics pointed to its troubled history as evidence that Russia simply could not operate a carrier effectively. That argument is now being tested. The modernization program that the Kuznetsov has undergone is not simply a repair of existing damage in systems. It represents a genuine upgrade across multiple dimensions that changes what the ship can do and how it fits within Russian naval doctrine. The propulsion systems that were always a source of concern have been addressed. The flight deck and arresting gear systems have been refurbished and improved. But the most significant changes are in the systems that determine how the carrier fights rather than simply how it moves. The Kuznetsov was always an unusual carrier design by Western standards. Unlike American carriers that rely entirely on aircraft for their offensive and defensive firepower, the Kuznetsov was designed with its own heavy anti-ship missile armament built into the ship itself. This reflects a fundamentally different philosophy. Russian naval doctrine during the Soviet era did not envision carriers primarily as platforms for power projection in the way American doctrine does. They were designed as components of a larger naval strike complex, combining the aircraft they carried with their own organic weapons to create a multi-layered offensive and defensive capability. The modernization has updated and enhanced these systems, integrating newer missile technology and improving the coordination between the ship's own weapons and the aircraft it operates. The aircraft dimension is where the most strategically significant changes have occurred. The Kuznetsov is now configured to operate the Su-33 naval fighter in its updated form alongside the MiG-29K, providing both air superiority and multi-role strike capability from the same deck. But the integration that is drawing the most serious attention is the potential for operating newer generation aircraft that bring significantly enhanced capabilities compared to what the carrier deployed in its previous operational periods. Better sensors, better weapons, better electronic warfare systems. All of these improve what the carrier air wing can do in terms of both offensive reach and defensive effectiveness. The strategic implications of a modernized and operational Kuznetsov depend heavily on where it operates and how it is used. A carrier operating in isolation is vulnerable. This is true for any carrier, including American ones. The value of a carrier is realized when it operates within a larger naval task group that provides layered defense, logistical support, and coordinated offensive capability. The United States has spent decades developing the doctrine and the force structure to operate carriers this way. Russia is rebuilding that capability after a period in which the combination of funding constraints and the Kuznetsov's operational difficulties made sustained carrier operations essentially impossible. The areas of most immediate strategic relevance are the North Atlantic, the Mediterranean, and the Arctic. In the North Atlantic, a Russian carrier operating with surface escorts and submarine support would represent a challenge to NATO's maritime assumptions that has not existed in practical terms for many years. The alliance has maintained maritime superiority in this region as a foundational assumption of its strategic planning. A fully operational Russian carrier task group, even one that is less capable than an American carrier strike group, forces a different kind of planning. Resources must be allocated to track it, counter it, and maintain the ability to neutralize it if necessary. That allocation comes at a cost to other priorities. In the Mediterranean, the strategic picture is even more immediate. Russia's naval presence in this region has been sustained through its base access in Syria and the operations of surface combatants and submarines. Adding a carrier to this presence would significantly expand the range and complexity of Russian air power that can be projected across a region that includes critical NATO members, vital shipping lanes, and numerous ongoing security situations that shape the strategic environment. A carrier operating in the Eastern Mediterranean can reach targets across a wide arc that includes Southeastern Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. That reach, combined with the ship's own missile armament and the protection provided by escort vessels, creates a strike capability that must be factored into every security calculation in the region. For the United States Navy, the operational challenge of a modernized Kuznetsov is not primarily about the ship itself in isolation. It is about what the ship represents in the context of broader Russian naval modernization. Russia has been investing in new surface combatants, new submarines, and new weapons that are changing the overall capability of its naval forces. The Kuznetsov does not operate in a vacuum. It operates within this broader context, and the combination of a functioning carrier with the other elements of Russian naval power creates a more complex and demanding environment than any single platform analysis would suggest. The anti-access and area denial capabilities that Russia has developed over the past decade are particularly relevant here. Long-range anti-ship missiles, advanced submarines, and sophisticated electronic warfare systems together create zones where operating surface ships become significantly more costly and risky. A carrier operating in support of these systems, providing air coverage and additional strike capability, adds another dimension to an already challenging environment. The carrier does not need to win an engagement against an American carrier strike group to be strategically effective. It needs to complicate American planning, force resource allocation, and create uncertainty about the costs of naval operations in contested areas. The shock within the United States Navy is not about the Kuznetsov suddenly becoming an equal of American carriers. It is not. American carrier aviation remains far more capable in terms of numbers, training, sustained operational experience, and supporting infrastructure. The shock is about the signal. The signal that Russia has chosen to invest the resources necessary to rebuild and modernize this ship, rather than acknowledge the practical end of its carrier program. The signal that Russian naval doctrine continues to include carrier aviation as a relevant component rather than a legacy capability to be retired. And the signal that the operational environment in the North Atlantic and Mediterranean is becoming more complex than American planners had been comfortable assuming. Every additional capable platform that Russia puts to sea requires attention. It requires surveillance assets to track it, naval forces capable of shadowing it, and planning processes that account for its potential actions. This is a form of strategic competition that does not require combat to impose costs. Simply by existing and operating, the Kuznetsov forces responses that consume resources and attention that would otherwise be directed elsewhere. The long-term trajectory of Russian carrier aviation is genuinely uncertain. Operating a carrier effectively over sustained periods requires not just the ship itself, but a fully developed ecosystem of trained pilots, experienced deck crews, reliable supply chains, and doctrinal frameworks that are built through years of operational experience rather than theoretical development. The United States has this ecosystem built up over 8 decades of carrier aviation. Russia is rebuilding it after a significant gap. That gap has costs. Skills degrade. Institutional knowledge requires time to reconstruct. The gap between having an operational carrier and being able to use it with the same effectiveness as a navy with continuous carrier aviation experience is real and significant. But the direction of investment is clear. Russia has decided that carrier aviation matters enough to fund a modernization program that required significant resources and sustained political commitment. That decision reflects a strategic assessment that mobile sea-based air power remains relevant to Russian national interests and Russian naval doctrine. It suggests that future investment in this area is likely rather than contingent. And it indicates that the Kuznetsov, whatever its limitations in history, is the beginning of a renewed chapter rather than the final act of a declining program. For NATO navies beyond the United States, the implications are also significant. Britain has returned to carrier aviation with the Queen Elizabeth class. France maintains the Charles de Gaulle. Italy and Spain operate smaller carriers. The alliance has been rebuilding its collective carrier capability after a post-Cold War period in which the relevance of large surface combatants was questioned. A more active and capable Russian carrier program reinforces the logic of that investment and provides concrete justification for the resources being allocated to naval aviation across the alliance. The broader message of the Kuznetsov's return is about persistence and strategic commitment. Russia has maintained this program through financial crises, operational disasters, and a sustained period of skepticism about its viability. The decision to see it through to modernization and return to service reflects a long-term view of naval power that does not calculate value only in short-term operational returns. It reflects a belief that the ability to project sea-based air power matters for how Russia is perceived, how it can act, and how adversaries must plan when Russian naval forces are present. That if you want clear, in-depth analysis of the technologies reshaping modern warfare, subscribe to NeuroIntelE. Here we break down what is changing on the battlefield and why it matters. The United States Navy is watching this development with the seriousness it deserves. Not with panic, not with alarm about an immediate threat that exceeds current American naval capabilities, but with the professional attention of an institution that understands that naval power is shaped by long-term trends, that capabilities once lost require years to rebuild, and that a modernized Russian carrier operating in waters that NATO has taken for granted as safely controlled introduces variables that must be accounted for. The ship that was supposed to quietly fade into irrelevance has come back. And in coming back, it has changed a question that American naval planners thought was already answered. The naval balance is not static. It never has been. And Russia's rebuilt carrier is now part of what makes it move.